Hi, and welcome to College Planning Untangled, where we help simplify the college planning process for our families. I'm Kristin Clark. I'm a career exploration coach for 16 to 26-year-olds, and I'm here with Bobby Hood. Bobby tutors high school students on the SAT and ACT, and then, of course, the older kiddos on all the other
Mhm.
MCATs, LSATs, and all the other letters. So,
Yeah, right. All right. Well, yeah. So we've got a great topic today, right? Uh, I'm always interested in what my students do outside of like their classes, and sometimes they just do they do music or they do sports or whatever they do. Some of them don't do anything, and it's important that students have multiple, not multiple, but two things that they do outside of just classwork, right? To get into college, colleges want to see two different things that you did consistently through school, and that could be sports, that could be church, that could be volunteering. But I think what a lot of people overlook is having a job is one of those things that you can do.
yeah,
And that's
Bobby,
what
I
we
got
want
to
to talk about.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, I've talked about this topic in a lot of circles, and life is just different today than it was when we were younger about this whole idea of jobs.
Mhm.
For a couple of reasons. The the employers out there, there's been so many more restrictions on what kids can do. Like in
Mhm.
a restaurant situation, they can't, if they serve alcohol, they can't do that. And it just seems like it's a little bit harder to get a job as a teen these days, which
Mhm.
I hate, which I hate. But there are some really good companies out there that are willing to hire teenagers. So, and then the other thing that I hear is, Kristin, you just don't understand how busy kids are today.
Right.
And the thing is, they are, right? The
Yeah.
school is harder. I think school's more demanding now for sure.
Yes.
And these extracurriculars and the getting on the team that you have to travel and all the stuff has sucked up a lot of their time.
Mhm.
In my mind, though, I think it's all about choices. And I think about the time that we spent on, running around playing baseball with my oldest son. Now, we did
Mhm.
that before high school, okay?
Right.
But we made a choice to do that, okay? And I kind of look at it and I go, as a parent, and looking at what's happening today with all the mental health issues and all the stuff going on, I really think that we have to make better choices and help our kids make better choices about how they are spending their time and what's important. And not get on this hamster wheel of, well, I gotta. And it's more like, you know what? No, you don't gotta do anything.
Right.
And really thinking about it. Because I look at what I learned when I was growing up working.
Mhm.
And a caveat here, I love to work. Okay.
Right.
And I think everybody should love to work, or at least love what they do.
Right.
But I enjoy the activity of working. So I'm going to just lay that out there. But I look at all the benefits that teens can get from working. And I just think it's such a important thing for them to think about and for them to learn as they go. And those are some of the things I wanted to talk about today are the benefits of working,
Mhm.
before anybody gets too much up into my grill about, "Oh, you don't know how busy these kids are." I want
Mhm.
to talk about that first because I want people walking into this kind of with a open mind
Mhm.
to what the opportunities are for kids when they do work.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, I think it's just, I think a lot of parents just don't consider it at all and don't talk to their kids about the idea of working. They just think, "Oh, you should just focus only on your schoolwork." But, like the whole point, is all of this is to prepare for, what you're going to do after high school, which
For life.
eventually is going to involve working. And
Yeah.
so at some point you need to start finding out what sorts of things you'd enjoy doing and learning how to interact with other people and deal with, coworkers and deal with bosses and all that.
Yeah.
M- You might
And
as well start.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I look at the opportunities, and the very first one that and I'm always focused on this with my clients, is increasing their confidence.
Mhm.
Where when they go out and they get a job and they know that people are relying on them and all the stuff, all of a sudden you see them get a little bit more confident about, wow, I'm contributing. And that first paycheck,
Right.
that's a huge confidence builder. And I know it was for me. And I've watched both of my boys with that first check. And they're like, wow, look at, I just made money. And then, of course, they get to the tax part and everything else. And they're like, holy
Right.
cow, that's wrong. But there's this confidence that comes with, I'm doing something. It's for me. It's outside the house. Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I think there's also something to be said for meeting people outside of their friend group.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Yeah. And I mean, I think that's a big part of it is, yeah, just learning to deal with other people. And I mean, and and likely a lot of jobs that high school students are going to get, to work, 10 or 15 hours or something, are probably going to be, service industry type jobs and whatever. And I think, you know, I don't know, in this world, like you kind of know the difference between people that you hang out with that ever worked in a service industry job and who didn't, right?
Oh, for sure.
Because they treat people with more respect and they tip and things like that, right? They understand what that life is like, and that's also part of it too. Uh, is learning. Okay, I would like to go to college because I would like to do other kinds of jobs, right? And
Oh,
that's part of
yeah.
it too. Like
Yeah.
it's really getting exposed to where you can end up, what you can do in life, and what they are, and what you might love. And I mean, you could find out that you really love working with people, and that would, that you love working customer facing, and that could be something that is important to know to help pick a career, right?
Oh, absolutely. I can't tell you how many students that I work with, their clients, whether it be high school, college, and or right after college, and they're like, "I've never had a job, so Kristen, I have no idea what I like." Yeah.
Exactly, right. You
Yeah, so
just
the experience
yeah,
is huge. Yeah.
exactly.
I love that they get interviewing experience.
Hmm.
You have already brought up dealing with customers. Here's another big one, I think, reinforcing that what they're learning in school, actually, you do in real life. For instance, math. Math you
Hmm.
do in real life. And I know that was always, something you'd hear is, I'm never going to do this in real life. Well,
Right.
you are. Now, algebra and some of that stuff, maybe not,
Sure.
but math you do, right?
Well, and this is another really interesting thing is, when I was in college, I had some semesters where I worked in the admissions office was, one of the things that I did, right? And so that was a 10 to 15 hour a week, thing that I would do. And the semesters when I had a heavy course load and I was working like that, I did really, really well in college. I had a really high GPA. But then I had a semester or two where I had a very light course load and I wasn't doing any work. And I did not do nearly as well because part of the thing is you need, like, when you have some work to do, when you have a job, it forces you to actually organize your schedule and plan things. But if you don't have enough to do, it's easy to slack off and do nothing, right?
And Bobby, what you're telling me is exactly what all the research says. And that
Mhm.
is the kids that have a job during high school and or college actually do better in school if they're working like that 10 to 15 hours a
Right.
week range, because they have to do better at time management.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And nobody should get confused about this. I mean, it does, like the studies also show that if you do more than that, that can hurt your GPA, right? That
Yes.
if you try to work 25 or 30 hours a week and go to school or college, that's
Yeah.
probably going to be negative. Some people have to do that, and it's so hard to do, right?
And it's all
But
about balance, like everything
absolutely,
in life.
right.
Yeah.
But it is a lot of parents would probably think that, oh, my student's too busy. If they try to do 10 to 15 hours of work during the week, they're not going to have time. Now, certainly, I mean, I saw this in and everyone should look at the blog post that you wrote about this, right? But you brought up in that that, like, a student who is training to be an Olympic, in the Olympics, or who is trying to get in to be a dancer or something like that, or things like that. Sometimes students have to train year round and couldn't hold a job, but other than that, right? It's not just that it's helpful, it will actually improve GPA, it will improve your future prospects and all that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And here's another fun kind of story. I remember when my youngest Matt got his first job and got that first paycheck, he's
Mhm.
all up in himself and all that. And he came back from going out to dinner with his buddies. And he looks at me and he goes, "Mom, do you know that I have to work 2 hours to be able to pay for a meal at Chili's?" And of course I'm going, yeah, I do know because
Yes, I do
he's
know.
4 when we go out, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
Right.
but it was this huge aha moment for him, Bobby. Now, Matt's one of those kids that he kind of he'll do his own thing. He doesn't have to go along with the crowd. But he then chose lots of times they'd say, hey, yeah, we're going to go out to lunch or do this. And he'd go, yeah, I'm going to go and I'm going to have a Coke because I'm not hungry. I'm not that hungry. Right.
Yeah,
So he still enjoyed going out with them, but he was like, I'm not really hungry. I'm just going to have a Coke.
absolutely.
But it was because he understood what money could buy him and how long and how hard it was to get it.
Yeah, and I don't think I fully understood that until college, right? And maybe not even until after, and that's really important because you're going to go off to college and like I mean, I remember when I was in college and somewhere along the way, maybe junior year or something, I got one of those credit card offers and I did that same thing
Oh,
that
yeah.
everybody does, right? And you
Yep.
suddenly have a maxed out credit card and you realize, oh no, right? Okay, now what about parents who like, probably will listen to this and say, look, I just know, we're comfortable enough that like I just want to tell my kid, you're going to have to work forever and that's no fun. And so I just tell my kid, just enjoy your high school and later on you're going to have to work. What do you say to people who say that?
Bobby, personally, I think it sends the wrong message. I hear that, you were kind. I hear it more emphatically, where actually parents are like, "You're going to have to work the rest of your life. Just relax and enjoy this time." I kind of look at that and go, "You're kind of setting them up for failure because they are going to be working." But if you tell people that work's going to be work, and tell kids that work's going to be work, and it's something you shouldn't want to do,
Mhm.
then what about, telling them instead, wow, you're going to really enjoy what you do. And how do we get you to that place? And talk about work as something that you can get enjoyment out of. I think there's a whole different message that comes across for that, not only for our kids, but actually for people in the workforce now, because you've heard me tell this stat, 70% of America are not enjoying what they do.
Right. Yeah.
And and that's
Yeah.
sad.
And yeah. And so if you tell students from childhood that work is terrible and you're going to hate it your whole life, that's going to set them up to expect that. And so they're not going to seek out a job that they're going to actually love. And, and so, yeah, you're creating that expectation. And also, I think, like this generation that is coming up, right. The generation alpha crowd, they are learning to expect and demand jobs where they're going to be happy. That is a basic expectation that they have, is that they know that they're going to be changing jobs multiple times throughout their life. And so they will walk from a job that they don't like. And so why not start learning that right in school? And then I see, in the comments there, yeah, you asked about student loans, and this is part of the thing is in college, right? You can very often, you know, have work study be part of your, actual financial aid package,
Yeah,
right? And so,
absolutely.
so many students I know worked somewhere on campus for 10 or 15 hours a week and got significant portions of their tuition paid as a result, right? And so that's part of it too, is that like if you start instilling that in high school and then in college, yeah, that can be part of your actual financial aid package, right?
Yes. And Bobby, I think this message about too, looking at work as something you get to do,
Right.
or there's an opportunity to do it, I think also helps in that situation where you don't want your kid coming out of school with a ton of debt,
Mhm.
and I get it. Sometimes that it has to happen that way. But looking at that ROI, making sure everybody's agreeing that, hey, what I'm doing is going to get me to a place that I want to be, that's important to me. But then also being able to supplement it with being able to work
Mhm.
versus making it be like, oh, I'm sorry, you have to work. No, you get to work because you know what? It's getting you to your goal. I think there's a big psychological thing here that we got to, look at.
Well, absolutely. And see, this is the other thing too, is we talk so often about the statistics of how so many students leave college after the first year. They go to college, they don't get involved on campus, they don't make friends, they just hide out in their room because they're shy or because they just feel lost and it feels different. And having a work study job on campus, you're going to be working with students who are, later years. You're going to be making friends. You're going to be out learning more about the campus. And that's just going to get you out of your room, give you a place to go, and just get you involved on campus. And you're going to make all these friends, and friends who are not just freshmen, right? And you're going to have a wider friend group. It's going to dramatically increase the chances that you're going to stay in college and be successful and thrive.
It is. It's a positive thing. And the cool thing is, if you work while you're in high school, it's a little bit easier to get that job while you're in college.
Exactly. Right. You've already got that experience. You're used to it. And it's just normalizing the idea of like finding something you enjoy and doing it. You don't have to work 20, 30 hours a week. You just a little bit to give you a structure to your schedule, keep you on task, keep you organized, and just learning those life skills, because the whole point is figuring out what you want to do and learning about it. And that's probably the most, when you coach students about choosing a career, right? And you say, well, what sort of things do you think you might want to do? I'm sure it always begins with them saying, well, I've never done anything. I have no idea what I would want to do. Right.
Yeah. 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 And a lot of my coaching is to let them know that they can do something that they enjoy. So let's start.
Let's figure it out.
What is it that you're going to enjoy? And I'll tell you one last thing, Bobby, that I want to add in here is, I racked my brain for cons. I was like, what is there bad about getting a job in high school? And one of the things I did think about, and my kids dealt with this, is companies or employers that just are not teen friendly. And that is unfortunately something that's out there. But I think here's the opportunity. And that is to have your son or daughter have the conversation with the boss or, your manager, I guess, to say, hey, this is happening and I'm not happy about it. How can we work through it? So getting them, even though it's uncomfortable, but you know what, the risk is low for them to go and talk to an employer at that point, right, to go, I'm not happy, and to try out, some different ways to say it.
Right. At a job that you don't actually have to keep, right?
Right.
Learning how to deal with a boss who doesn't treat you well and how to respond to that in a productive manner when it's not life or death, right? Yeah. What a skill to learn in high school, right? Is how to have the difficult conversations at work. Imagine the difference then later when you're, out of college, getting a job, and then being able to proactively work through problems. My gosh. Yeah.
Oh, it's huge. Yeah. So why some introvert students have a lot of difficulties in their working environments. What I find, even though people sometimes are introverts, I actually find that when they're able to do something, like they're physically doing something, that introversion is not a challenge anymore, where then they're actually getting to work with people and do things, but they have something to do with their hands or, a job that they're doing. So I actually find that introverts, self-proclaimed introverts, because I have a lot of them that I work with, they actually enjoy working. So
absolutely. And part of it is just learning how to deal with being an introvert, right? I mean, if you're working in a customer facing job, you put on a face, a role that you play, right? Where you're acting all extrovert, and then we all know people like that. Then they get off, they say, okay, I'm going to go hide from people for a while.
Right. I'm going to go home and hunker down.
Exactly. But you have to learn that. Right. And so that's part of the thing is you need to you have to learn that at some point, right? Is what serves you. And that's how you find, I want to work in this job where I'm doing something physical and I'm not having to talk every minute, right? That's learning how to find the job that you
want. Or Bobby, I wanted role that, 30% of the time I am talking with people, but then I get to go back to my desk and maybe do something on my own. So there is learning there as well. So anyway, me, I think work is the bomb. And I would love to see more high school students working because I just think there's so much to be gained. And thanks for everybody for listening to
absolutely
talks today.
Yeah, this is a great talk. Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, this is great. I think it's really important for parents to think about because I think it's easy to overlook. Awesome. All right. Well, this is great. Talk to you next week.
All right. Bye.